Our detectives have determined that Madeline was never dropped off. Instead, we believe she was already dead at the time and that Stephen Stearns moved her body.
The first night I was on the concrete floor with a roll toilet paper for pillow. Nothing else. You can put a blanket or a pad to sleep on for 2 days.
New video shows suspect Stephen Stearns in police transport. But when will we see justice for Madeline Soto? And opening statements are expected this week for Doomsday prophet Chad Daybell. We're previewing his case with Lori Vallow Daybell's uncle. Plus, Caleb Harris missing now for more than a month. And this morning, his father is joining us on the program live. It's all coming up next for you, plus much more right here on Opening Statements. Good Monday morning to you, and thanks for waking up with us here on Opening Statements. I'm your host, Julie Grant, and on this program, we do things like the lawyers do it at trial during their actual opening statements. We get you all primed and ready to go to hear the case evidence and the big trials that we're covering, and also we discuss the major cases making headlines in the world of true crime. I say the show is like coffee and court. It's morning time, we get all warmed up together, so why don't you go ahead right now, grab that cup of coffee, because it's time for my opening statement. Elijah needs us. That's the motto of the incredible men and women who are leading a search this morning for the 3-year-old known now as Wisconsin's toddler, Elijah Vu. Saturday night, those wonderful searchers held a prayer vigil for Elijah. And right now, they're preparing to launch a very large-scale search for him today. That sweet child has been missing since February 20th, when his mother's boyfriend, Jesse Vang, reported him missing, claiming that Elijah just disappeared when he had taken a nap. Vang is facing child neglect charges right now, like Katrina Bauer, his girlfriend, Elijah's mom. So those two are useless in this search. They're locked up, and they're not offering anything helpful to police. Now, Mom says that she dropped little Elijah off to live with her boyfriend, Jesse Vang, on February the 12th so that he could learn to be a man. How ridiculous is that? He's 3. He should have been allowed to be a toddler. So given that we now have 2 different dates here, coming from 2 different criminal defendants, I don't think we can trust either date when it comes to when Elijah actually disappeared. Consider the sources. Now, I know that Elijah's extended family, who truly cares about him, are worried sick. I know that they are hoping and praying for his safe return like we all are. But Elijah's mother and her boyfriend, well, they ought to be doing some praying of their own, because I think that those two are going to be in a world of trouble as they have failed precious Elijah miserably. And if they did something to cause his disappearance, or if they harmed him irreparably, may they face the harshest of punishments. That's my opening statement on this Monday morning. Let me know if you like it, my friends. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
The way he was standing there, and just, it was a very expressionless, hollow, almost like a demonic look in his face. Like, I don't know how else to describe it other than his eyes did not look human.
All right, here's a look at some of the cases we're following for you today on Court TV in Wisconsin. Testimony resumes at 9 a.m. in the Apple River stabbings trial. Then in New Hampshire, our verdict watch continues at 10 a.m. in the small town secrets murder case. And in Idaho, day 6 of jury selection begins at 11 a.m. for the Doomsday prophet Chad Daybell. They might get that jury seated today. Let's hear more about it now and take you to Boise, Idaho, where Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson has the very latest.
Julie, good morning. We could have a jury seated by this afternoon. The pool of qualified jurors are returning this morning, and then attorneys will use their strikes. Today begins week 2 in the Doomsday Prophet murder trial. Chad Daybell charged in the murders of his first wife, Tammy, and current wife's youngest children, J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan. The trial playing out in the same Ada County courthouse where wife Lori was convicted of murder last year. Chad faces the death penalty and Lori did not, which is why jury selection has taken a little bit longer. At the courthouse, we've seen a lot of familiar faces. We also met up with a juror from the Vallow trial.
Well, the prosecution told me when I interviewed them after the Lori Vallow trial that there would be new information. So they have new stuff that we're going to see. So I'm interested to see what that is. And then, of course, yeah, that it's a death penalty case. That's going to be a lot different for these jurors.
And the court is looking to seat 18 total. That includes 12 jurors and 6 alternates. As soon as it happens, we'll let you know. That's the very latest from the Ada County Courthouse. I'll send it back to you, Julie.
All right, thanks to Matt Johnson for that early update. Now let's talk more about what we can expect when this highly anticipated trial begins. I have 2 wonderful guests standing by to talk about it. Jury consultant and human behavior expert Susan Constantine. And also we want to welcome onto the program this morning Lori Vallow's uncle, Rex Connor. Good morning to you both. Wonderful to see you. Rex, I want to start with you. Our hearts go out to you and your family members, all that you've been through. Our condolences, of course, first and foremost, for the deaths of JJ and Tylee. You've already been through one trial, as we know, with your niece Lori's case already being disposed of. Do you or any of your family members plan on attending this trial too?
Not very many family members. No one's planning on it. I will probably go at some point, but it's not to support the defendants by any means, but there are a lot of people there I like to thank, and I did that at Lori's trials. Kay and Larry for getting the process started, all the law enforcement, all the media people, including Court TV, you've been so good about carrying this story. And because of that, the world's united to find justice for Tylee and JJ and Tammy and Charles. So a lot of people to thank. I'll go for those reasons. And I'll be following the trial from home like millions of others.
Sure. You've always been very gracious, Rex. We applaud you. This can't be easy, what you've been through, what you're going to continue going through. Thank you for that. Susan, I want to show you a clip, please, really tapping into your experience as a body language analyst. This is from a 2020 hearing with one of the detectives we've seen throughout the progression of this case, really the lead detective, Ray Hermosillo, and he's talking about some really graphic evidence in this clip. And I want you to take a look at Chad's expression here and tell us how you think a jury might perceive the way he's acting.
When I returned to that area, they had already dug down and located what would appear to be a mass of burnt flesh and charred bone.
Okay, and just the way live television works, we lost our signal with Susan. So, Rex, I know you're not a body language analyst, but we just as human beings, we analyze other people's body language all the time. And the point we wanted to make here is he is expressionless. You know, when you're thinking about those precious children, I mean, Lori's children, and their remains found in his backyard. And his job previously, little known fact about him, but I'm sure the prosecutors will make a big deal about it here, is he was a grave digger. A grave digger before he became the prophet and the author and the preacher and everything else he claimed to be. Rex, how do you think the members of the jury are going to receive him when he sits there and doesn't appear to show emotion when police are talking about JJ and Tylee?
Well, I hope they will see right through him as they did in Lori's trial. You had my friend Tom Evans on there, who was one of the jurors in Lori's trial here in this segment, and Tom said they could see through that. And so the fact that he's emotionless, I hope the message is I'm uncaring, I'm as cold as ice, and that's why I was able to participate in the slaughter of these 2 people and then the other victims that have been involved.
Oh, Rex, you said that so well. That's exactly what the prosecutor should say, what you just said right there. Portray him as cold as ice. That's really what they've got to do. I am very curious if the defense team will call Lori as a witness. And John Pryor, Chad's attorney, was asked about this. Rex, I want to play a clip where he answers the question. Let's watch.
It's possible. It's always possible. Anybody who's connected to a case could be called. And I don't want to specify, and I want to be clear. I'm not telling you that I am or that the state is or anybody else is. Okay. But anybody could be called. If you have an involvement in this case, potentially you could become a witness in this case.
Okay. Now, Rex, you know Lori personally. She's your niece. I just made what do I want to say? Maybe a little bit of an informed prediction just based on what I've seen from following this case for the last, it's over 4 years now, that I think if she was asked to testify for Chad, that she would. What do you think she would do? You know best.
I think she would love it, and I don't know this version of Lori very well, as close to the previous version of Lori, but I believe she would love it, be able to get up there and talk about the alternative reality that they've created together, and we would hear nothing else except that alternative reality about their mission and the same type of dribble that came out when she made the statement at her sentencing. So I doubt that it would be very productive for the defense, maybe for the prosecution.
That's true. That's a really good point, Rex. Maybe for them. Let's take a look back at some of what she said at sentencing. Particularly, she said, no one was murdered.
Jesus knows me. And Jesus understands me. I mourn with all of you who mourn, my children and Tammy. Jesus Christ knows the truth of what happened here. Jesus Christ knows that no one was murdered in this case. Accidental deaths happen. Suicides happen. Fatal side effects from medications happen.
Ooh, we all remember hearing that. Rex, tell us, what were you thinking? I'm sure you remember the moment when those words came out of her mouth and you know what happened to JJ and Tylee. What do you think when you hear that again?
I painfully remember that very, very well, sitting in the courtroom with my wife, Lisa, and I was just, still to this day, I just can't believe what was coming out of her mouth and how arrogant it was, how I still don't have the words to describe it, but I wish I could do more for you on that question. I just can't describe it. It was so awful's the only word that can come to mind.
Right. It left you speechless. Did it not? It left you speechless, huh?
It certainly did.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
As you said before, Rex, this is not the person that you knew. This is not the niece that you knew for so many years. Do you think Chad was responsible for the big change in her personality?
No, I think she was working that direction and meeting Chad, as her brother Adam says. Her brother and I do a podcast, and I've written a book about it. He said that's just it was just pouring fuel on the fire, is the perfect storm of evil getting together. So I don't blame one over the other, neither Alex over the other, or all three of them, and other conspirators, unknown as the original paperwork said. That's who we want to see brought to justice. So I think they're equal in this crime.
I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts. Rex Connor, thank you kindly for your time, for being so open with all of us. Would love to talk to you again really soon. All the best to you and your family members. It's very clear you are a lovely family, and so many of our viewers are so sorry that you all have been put through this because of another family member's decisions. Take good care. We'll see you soon.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for carrying this story and caring so much.
Oh, certainly. Rex, we'll talk soon. Thank you kindly. We're going to hit a quick break, but before we do that, my friends, we have some newly obtained video footage that we've just got to share with you. This is of Stephen Stearns. He was arrested back on February 28th. He got arrested during the searches that were going on for 13-year-old Madeline Soto, who is the daughter of his girlfriend. Now, he's currently facing 60 child sex crimes charges after police found very disturbing images of little Madeline on his cell phone. And in this newly obtained video, he complains about the jail conditions during transport. Take a look.
How's the temperature feel?
Better than it was.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Don't know why they don't do that. You know, why don't they just kind of like at least give you a blanket, you know?
My core temperature was down. Until they took it, it was like a degree or two lower than it should have been.
Wow.
Couldn't regulate sleeping on bare metal. The first night I was on a concrete floor with a roll of toilet paper for a pillow. Nothing else. Begging for a blanket or a pad to sleep on for like 2 days. I think they were supposed to do something like that.
That sounds rough, man.
Are you feeling bad for him? I'm sure you're not. I'm not. This video, by the way, is taken the same day that Madeline Soto's remains were found. And while Stephen Stearns has not yet been charged with Madeline's murder, he is the prime suspect, and will continue bringing you updates on this case as they come in. Right now, let's take our first break of the hour. Here's what we have when we come back.
According to foreign officials, Armstrong altered her physical appearance. She dyed her hair brown. She cropped her hair shorter to about shoulder length and had a bandage on her nose where she claimed it was from a surfboard incident just days before.
Kaitlin Armstrong went to all kinds of lengths to outrun the law after killing her romantic rival, including plastic surgery. And now her surgeon is speaking out. And we've got the latest on the disappearance of Caleb Harris as his father joins us live this morning to talk about the case.
We are underway in the trial of Doomsday prophet Chad Daybell.
Prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty against him.
Investigators have recovered human remains at Chad Daybell's residence.
There's no way, Logan. I can never come up with this.
His wife, Vallow Daybell, has already been convicted.
Now, will her husband end up with the same fate?
It's just so hard to know where the truth ends.
It's the Doomsday prophet, Chad Daybell, on trial.
We, the jury, having found the defendant, Kaitlin Armstrong, guilty of the offense of murder, assess her punishment and confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division for a period of 90 years and a $10,000 fine, signed at 1:58 p.m. by the presiding juror. You may be seated.
Now for what's trending in true crime, Kaitlin Armstrong is back in the headlines as her plastic surgeon speaks out on NBC's Dateline. In last week's episode of The Nighttime Stopped, Dr. Jorge Padilla outlined the face-altering surgery that he performed on Armstrong, all while the now convicted killer was on the run from U.S. Marshals.
She was maybe a little bit shy. She didn't talk too much. I needed to take some pictures, some pre-op pictures, because I do that for all the patients just to have it before and after. She didn't want me to do that, so that was like an issue, but she told me, okay, doctor, you can take pictures, but only with my cell phone. So that's the only thing that it was just a little bit weird in the day of the surgery, just minutes before the surgery.
Dr. Padilla also says he did lip filler and a nose job for Armstrong, who used the name Allison Page for her surgery. So our question this morning to our power panel, did the disguise lead to her demise? Let's bring in our guests now. Law enforcement expert Sonny Slaughter's with us. Retired criminal defense attorney Kirk Nurmey's with us as well. And also former child abuse prosecutor and criminal defense attorney and law professor Wendy Murphy. Great to have you all on the program this morning. All right. Did the disguise lead to her demise? What do we think? Sunny Slaughter, would you start us off, please?
Good morning, Julie, and to my amazing co-guest. Absolutely, because it's very suspicious that she didn't want to take the pictures. The doctor could have actually taken them while she was asleep. But when somebody comes to get work done and they want to do something that's so out of character and so outside of the box, I think this was an absolute cover-up. She got caught, and well, she absolutely looks different. It still did not hinder her capture or her prosecution.
I love what you're saying there, Sunny. Wendy Murphy, to you next, please. Your thoughts on this?
Yes, I agree, and would just add that the case was so strong already. I don't know why she bothered, unless she wanted to look good when she went to prison. Consciousness of guilt is such an important component of criminal trials. Prosecutors don't have to prove it, but when they have evidence that shows consciousness of guilt, boy, does that help. And there's nothing better than when a defendant tries to change their appearance. Sometimes it's growing a beard, shaving a mustache, dyeing their hair. This was pretty extreme, but boy, it was the nail in the coffin in terms of proving her guilt. I just agree that it wasn't necessary. The evidence against her was overwhelming.
Right, Wendy, exactly. Kirk Nurmi, last but not least, tell us what you think of this, please.
I agree with everything that's been said. I think Wendy hit the nail on the head. The evidence against her was strong enough anyway that this additional bit, her fleeing to Costa Rica for the surgery, just added all the more to it. But I think about what's interesting, peeling back the curtains. If you're a defense attorney, you go back, you're sitting with your client, you're talking about this evidence, and they always have some kind of explanation for it all. It's always almost laughable. You got to keep a straight face and you go, do you really expect a juror to believe that? Do you want a lawyer who's dumb enough to believe this? Look what you did, and really hit them hard with the evidence so they know what they're facing at trial.
Right. Excellent points. Kirk, thank you for that. Let's turn now to some other big trending news as police in Arizona have presented some charges against the homeowners who hosted the Halloween party where teenager Preston Lord was killed. According to police, the party was attended by up to 200 people. The homeowners who were there during the event told police that it was supposed to be a small gathering hosted by their teenager. Now, the exact charges are not being revealed by police. So we're asking our power panel, what do you think the charges may be? Let's bring them back in now. Kirk Nurmi, I feel like you've become our resident expert on this case as you live near this area of Arizona. You've served there for many years doing criminal defense work, and we've talked a lot about how this may have been done by a gang. Police have still been, doing some investigative work, to that end. The Gilbert Goons is the name of the gang that's been brought up. The homeowners, now they're going beyond these many teenagers to the homeowners where the party happened. What do you think they could possibly be charged with, please, Kirk?
Yeah, I don't necessarily know that it would have anything to do with the murder of Preston Lord. I think that there's nothing to indicate anyway in the records that would be an area of criminal responsibility. What I would likely say is it has to do with contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Did they supply alcohol? Was there substances that they didn't confiscate? Their reasons not for shutting down the party, what was going on, things of that nature. So I think ultimately that's where the charges are going to be relatively minor in terms of their involvement, because there's nothing to indicate that they in any way facilitated or aided in the subversion of people investigating the case.
Kirk, as soon as you were saying that, contributing to the delinquency of a minor, right away I saw Sunny nod and then Wendy started nodding. So I know our panel agrees with you. Yeah, perhaps furnishing alcohol to minors if that was the case. Sunny, to you next, please.
I'm thinking along the lines of community disturbance. If they, whatever type of community they live in, people may have been calling with complaints. So things along the lines of complaints, disturbances, noise complaints. I agree with Kirk. I don't think it's going to be criminal related, but it is some type of disturbance. And why didn't they cut it off? If they couldn't cut it off without, just by themselves, they should have contacted law enforcement to say, okay, we're having a party, this is getting out of control, can you come and help and do some crowd control for us?
Yeah, isn't that the truth? I really appreciate that point, Sunny. Thank you for that. Last but not least, Wendy Murphy, would you take us home on this case, please?
Well, let me just try to come up with something different for the sake of
we love that.
coming up with something different.
Go ahead, Professor.
I think there's a possibility, but I don't know the facts well enough to say this is, guaranteed, that they could be charged with accessory because it depends what they did, and it depends what they did both before and after the fact. Did they attempt in any way to cover things up? Did they hide evidence? Did they say certain things to the young people who were there that made it harder for police during the investigation? Was there any obstruction of justice? We know that there were some pretty strange things that happened in terms of what was said and what some of the defendants did after the fact to evade prosecution. So I think part of the question will be what role, if any, did the homeowners play? I don't know. And then there's also the possibility of failing to report child abuse or neglect because there were young people there and they may well be mandated reporters. It depends on the context and what they knew, but failing to report child abuse, and certainly a lot of what was going on here, both in terms of drinking and the violence, would rise to the level of the kind of abuse or neglect where you expect a mandated reporter to make the call. So those are possibilities. I don't think they're big possibilities. I think my colleagues are right on what's more likely to happen, but I wanted to say something.
No, I appreciate that, Wendy. And really, in child abuse, that's certainly your wheelhouse. You know an awful lot about this. You do a lot of advocacy work in the prevention movement. So yeah, certainly anything is possible here. Thank you for that. Wendy, we'll see you in What's Tipping the Scales. Sunny, we'll see you for Court TV Live. Kirk Nermy, we got to say goodbye. And a big thank you to you, our friend. Thanks for joining us on this Monday morning. We'll see you soon. And here's what we have for you coming up next on Opening Statements.
It's a parent's worst nightmare. Where's your children? It's gut-wrenching.
We're speaking with Caleb Harris's father live on the show as the search continues this morning for the missing Texas college student. Plus, how might protesters try to tip the scales of justice at Karen Reed's upcoming murder trial? We'll talk about it later. Welcome back to Opening Statements. This morning, we're spotlighting a family search for missing college student Caleb Harris. The 21-year-old was a student at Texas A&M Corpus Christi when he disappeared from his apartment 1 month ago. Locals are saying that they're praying for his safe return. Scripps News, Corpus Christi was there at last week's vigil.
That happened in Corpus really did touch my heart because I know I can do something about it because I'm actually here.
It's now been a month since Caleb Harris disappeared from his apartment on Ennis Jocelyn Road. But the community certainly hasn't forgotten. Aliana Garcia saw that a prayer vigil was happening in New Braunfels for Harris, and they asked on Facebook for one in Corpus Christi. Without any connection to Harris, Garcia took it upon herself to gather everyone for prayer.
Amazing grace. I know that people do care. People do care. They might not all know him, but they're here to support the family and him and pray for his return home.
Corpus Christi police released a timeline of 21-year-old Harris's last known location. No one has seen him since a Snapchat he sent just after 3 a.m. on March 4th. There have been many search efforts by police and volunteers since then. Many people who don't even know Harris. And that's the case for most of the people that gathered at the prayer vigil.
I want to come and show what I can, do what I can. Even being here counts. Praying counts, showing some love to the family, praying for them.
Fabian Charles is one of the attendees. He feels connected to the situation because he's close in age to Harris.
I don't want to walk. I don't want to ride my scooter one day and the next thing I'm next. I don't want it to be my neighbor. I don't want it to be a family. I don't want to be my girlfriend's family. You wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy.
Searches continue in the area around Harris's apartment, the cottages. Garcia says she still searches on her own when she can.
I would like for his parents to know that Corpus is with them. Corpus's hearts are all with them, and to not give up and don't give up hope.
We are all hoping and praying for Caleb Harris's safe return. And this morning we have a very special guest joining us on the program. Caleb's dad, Randy Harris, is joining us. Randy, good morning to you. And first, let me just start by saying just our heartfelt, sentiments we want to share with you, how all of our Court TV viewing audience is hoping and praying that your son is found safe and can be brought home to you very soon. Could we start with some of the last things we know that Caleb was doing and really try to go back to those moments in time and see if there's anything there? We put together a timeline, Randy. We shared it on Friday of Caleb's disappearance and the last things he was known to be doing. We know he was at his house. We're talking about March the 3rd going into March the 4th playing video games. We know that he was Snapchatting him with a puppy dog. And Randy, I've seen some conflicting reporting about this. Who does the puppy belong to?
It's actually his roommates, but it was going to be kind of their dog, to share at the apartment and do some, just have a little community dog.
Sure. And we know one of the last snaps that he sent was a picture of the puppy, and he sent it to your daughter. And so we're this was around 2:44 a.m. It looks like he's got the puppy in the parking lot. Randy, do we know, did Caleb return the puppy then to the apartment to his roommate?
Yes, the puppy was back in the apartment.
Okay. And do you know if the roommate saw Caleb when he brought the dog back in?
No, he was asleep.
Okay. So that's what makes this really tough. I know that his roommate knew that he was going to be ordering from Uber Eats, and we know that he left the order behind, and so presumably his roommate's sleeping throughout this time. Randy, there was something that jumped out to me the most from the Snapchats, and I would love to know what you make of it. Caleb's Snapchat showed that he sent a picture of a bridge over a drainage ditch near the apartment, and this was at 3:03 a.m. Any idea what that could be about?
No, not really. And we, the timeline is best that we know it and what the law enforcement has put together. Forensics wise, we're not, it's not 100% that it was at that time. But there's something around that time and actually even delayed even getting to his friends. So, not 100% sure or why. We just don't know.
Right. Yeah, that is such a mystery. The puppy, I think we all get cute puppy pictures, why those would be sent, but the drainage ditch just seems a little weird. And that being said, we know it wasn't long after that, it was around 3:20 a.m. that Caleb's phone no longer starts pinging on any cell towers. I'm sorry, 3:12 a.m. Forgive me. It was at 3:20 that the Uber Eats order was dropped off. So 3:12, last known phone activity, 3:20 when the deliveries dropped. So we have just a short window there. Randy, your best educated guess, gut feeling, thoughts on what you think may have happened with Caleb?
Of course, we don't know. And actually, the phone was turned off or went dead at 12:58. I'm sorry, excuse me, 2:58. So as far as the additional pings and things like that, again, it could just be anomalies. We really don't know. But it did go, it was turned off on every device we can find. The last, ping or whatever you want to call it, the phone was off at 2:58. What happened? We really don't know. That's part of that's hard for us to understand is we just don't know. There's no evidence of anything, as well as he just basically vanished, and that's the hard part. We don't know if he was coerced into getting into a vehicle or forced into a vehicle, or we just don't know, and we don't have any timeline cameras after that, so that we know of. Of course, the law enforcement is doing a phenomenal job, and they're working very, very hard.
Randy, my heart breaks for you as you're sharing this, because like you said, it's like he vanished, but people don't just vanish. There's a reason. Something had to have happened.
Right.
I'm curious, did Caleb have a set routine, a certain time that he would always be out walking the dog, or a certain pattern that somebody, who may, God forbid, have wanted to do him harm could have picked up on?
No, actually, yes, Caleb's he's a creature of habit, very much so. Being out that late with a brand new dog, they'd just gotten the dog like at 10:15, 10:30 that night. So that's why they were out. There's a video at 1 o'clock, with his roommate, another friend. They were out playing with the dog. Best we know, take the dog out, come back and, order Uber Eats, leave the dog, and then maybe went outside to wait for his order. I mean, he's an outdoors guy, but he wouldn't go walking at that time of night, especially outside the complex.
Sure. And Randy, I wanted to ask you about that, please. As we understand, there's a bay a couple thousand feet away from where the apartment complex is located. I'm sure this, has been discussed with you. Investigators, are looking in that area. Do you think the bay could be key to this? Would there be any reason he would go near the bay?
That particular bay, a lot of people say, well, maybe he went fishing or whatever. He would never do that. One, he always goes with a roommate or a buddy. That particular bay is Oso Bay, not a place he would normally fish at all. It's just not a great place to go fishing. He would normally go out on the island, out by Mustang Island or North Padre Island. He had 3 to 4 definite fishing spots that he would really work hard at, and knows those spots really, really well, and so do we. So for him to go to Oso Bay to do something would be very, very rare, and really you may have known, we've searched and searched and searched, including 12 hours of helicopter time, that entire bay, the reservoirs, the whole area. From the air, from the water, underwater, and then ground searches.
Oh, Randy, my heart, I know the hearts of all of our viewers just break for you, the agony that you must be in. Caleb, what a handsome, smart, talented young man. I know you have said that he was such a helpful person. Do you think that someone could have used that to their advantage to prey upon him?
Really don't know. It's just an unknown question right now.
Yeah. It's just dreadful.
Did we get Tony on the line as well? Did he?
He unfortunately wasn't able to connect with our tech ops team.
Okay.
We tried. We did try to get Tony Mathis, who Randy just mentioned. That's a family friend who's been helping. But listen, Randy, we're out of time for today, but we would love to continue the conversation with you and with Tony. Hopefully we can connect with him next time as well. So we'll keep spreading the word. Every good wish to you and your family as you continue to work to bring Caleb home. And here's what's coming up next here on Opening Statements. Judge has ordered a buffer zone for the trial for defendant Karen Reed. Will that be enough to keep the protesters from trying to influence the jurors?
We are underway in the trial of Doomsday prophet Chad Daybell.
Prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty against him.
Investigators have recovered human remains at Chad Daybell's residence.
There's no way, Logan. I can never come up with this.
His wife, Vallow Daybell, has already been convicted.
Now, will her husband end up with the same fate?
It's just so hard to know where the truth ends.
It's the Doomsday prophet, Chad Daybell, on trial.
Growing crowds outside the courthouse have been hard to ignore in the case of defendant Karen Reed.
This case has divided the town. It has divided the town significantly. Every family is impacted. Every family. And there's ways I can't even tell you. My own family's impacted, okay? So you have families and friends that have been friends for many, many years. And this case has divided them.
Now, due to the allegations of witness intimidation, the judge has issued an order to restrict protesting within a certain distance of the courthouse. The order says in part that no individual may demonstrate in any manner within 200 feet of the courthouse complex during the trial. The order also prohibits law enforcement members or members of the trial audience from wearing uniforms or police emblems in the courthouse. So, will the protesters be successful in tipping the scales of justice? That seems to be what they are trying to do. Let's bring in our guest. She is a former prosecutor. She is a criminal defense attorney. She does civil rights work. She's a law professor, and she works in Boston. Wendy Murphy on the program with us today. So, Wendy, let's start with what the judge has done here. Right ruling, in your opinion? Why or why not, please?
Well, of course, it's the right ruling. In fact, I think she probably could have been even more aggressive in the restrictions. The bottom line legal question is, can a judge restrict the First Amendment rights of protesters in the area around the courthouse and, frankly, inside the courtroom? And the answer is absolutely. Courthouses are special places. They're not traditional public forums, and the law is well settled on this. And going back to 1965, it's been legal to restrict First Amendment rights with regard to court proceedings, and for good cause. I mean, we want the legal process to be protected in terms of its integrity, because we don't want judges, witnesses, jurors, or anybody else for that matter to make a certain decision based on the hordes of people out front. I mean, it's the antithesis of what we do in law. We're trying to find the facts and come to a legal conclusion, not be beaten into a certain verdict. So right. What she did was really reasonable. And by the way, that's the way the law works, right? If you're going to restrict the First Amendment, and there are First Amendment rights outside the courthouse, they're much less inside. But the First Amendment rights outside the courthouse are subject to reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions. And that's what she imposed. A 200-foot buffer zone, to me, is more than reasonable. If I were the judge, I would have made it even bigger.
Mm-hmm. Right. You know, the prosecution wanted it even bigger, Wendy. They wanted 500 feet, and the judge went with 250, I believe. 250, if I'm not mistaken, on the exact number. Or 200. I'm sorry, 200. Yeah, yes. 50 feet off, but close there. So they were asking for even more. And you're right, because in the court of public opinion, you know, there's no penalty for perjury. There is no checks and balances and authentication evidence. It's a free-for-all, so we want this jury to obviously just decide the facts. Wendy, I'm curious, something I've been thinking a lot about is whether this jury should be sequestered. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, it's a hard question, because sequestration, for me, is appropriate only when there's a legitimate fear that if they go home for the night, they will fall victim to some external influence, and it will undermine the integrity of their judgments and decisions in the case. I'm not sure we have that here. I don't think I would sequester them. I mean, first of all, the nonsense outside the courthouse has been going on for so long that I think everybody's been affected in one way or the other. The jurors now are going to have to be carefully screened to make sure that despite the nonsense, they can be fair during the case. And if those are the jurors who are selected, then, you know, they can go home at night without feeling like they have to, you know, submit to some of this stuff that's going on outside. Of course, they won't be allowed to read papers or watch the news and so forth. That's very typical.
Right. All that'll be restricted. Oh, Wendy, I wish we had more time. Would love to have you back soon. Thanks for taking us to school, Professor. We'll see you very soon.